Kelly Wall, how you doing, man?
Hey Dave, doing really good, really good. Appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, well, it's been a while since we've seen each other, but thanks so much for doing this. Where are you right now?
In Kailua, my family home, still living here in Kailua. Yeah, I went
Nice.
away for college for a couple years, Colorado State, with a couple of our alumni, and had fun, and then came back to UH in Hawaii. Graduated from UH, and then lived here my whole life. So it's been Hawaii.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, as we discussed, I've been interviewing, classmates from the class of 1988 out of a personal interest because I just want to see how we all got to the same place at the same time. We're all a
Yeah.
bunch of really interesting people. We all have very different family backgrounds, and if you go back far enough, we're from, all over the world. So I just kind of wanted to learn more about these people who I spent formative years with, and I think it's of interest to a lot of other people as well. So
Yeah.
let's talk about you. Let's talk about the Wall family. Why don't we start with your father's side?
Okay.
Who are the Walls, and how did they end up in Hawaii?
Yeah, so my father, Charles Francis Wall, born in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, back in 1939, grew up there, spent his life doing a bunch of different things. He was a rabble-rouser with his brothers early on. He joined the military. He was a Green Beret. He was a surfer. He was a bull rider. He was all of these different things. But ultimately, he found his way on a one-way ticket to Hawaii in like 1966-ish, 67-ish. Yeah, and he just bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii and lived on the North Shore with a bunch of surfers in an old chicken coop and rode big waves and just wanted to live the surfer's life, really. He then went and got his graduate degree at UH and was a teaching assistant at UH in computer sciences. And ultimately met my mom, who was fresh out of high school, graduating high school, and so that was a little bit of a salacious history of my parents.
The Wall name, what is that? Is that an English name? Is that something else?
So our history actually is Irish, Irish and French actually. So it was anglicized. It used to be Duval, and then we traced our lineage back to County Cork in Ireland.
When you say your dad was a rabble rouser, what do you mean?
He was a boxer back in those days, early on, and so he knew how to take care of himself and use it occasionally. So there were fun stories of what you don't expect of your parents, right? And to hear that side of it has always been fascinating for me.
Are you saying that he got into a lot of fights?
He caused a couple fights, Dave. Yeah.
You can't do that these days, but in
No,
the
you,
old
you can't.
days, it was for sport. And your dad became a Green Beret. Did he serve overseas anywhere?
Fortunately for me, he did not. He was destined to head off to Vietnam, and they were doing, I guess, final physical checks, and it turned out he had a bum knee that got him discharged from the military. And so that was fortunate for me because I don't think I'd be here if that had happened. So he did serve and then was discharged.
So your mom went to a local Oahu high school. What high school? Tell me about your mom's family.
Yeah, really interesting. And my mom's family, she was actually born in Salem, Oregon. Um, my grandfather, Joseph Dwight, I think he's the second or third. He was a lawyer at the time. He was a state legislature. He was an attorney general for American Samoa. And so mom grew up in Kailua, here, actually just down the street from where we live today, interestingly. Walk by that house every once in a while. And went to Kailua High School, class of 1969. And I was born in 70. And so she's lived her entire life here in Kailua. My uncle lives in Kailua as well. and has a rich family history. My great 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 grandfather, I believe, three greats, came over with the missionaries. So he was a missionary, and came over. In fact, his history is in the missionary museums here. Um,
What was the name of the missionary family that came over that's related to you?
so Samuel Gelston Dwight became a teacher, I believe, and teaching the Hawaiian students English and those type of things. And ultimately, he married a local gal, and so my cousins and I, we could have attended Kamehameha, but they attended Kamehameha, and my mom's dream was to go to Punahou because her father attended Punahou, and she didn't get that opportunity, unfortunately. And so I got to live out my mom's dream, and so that's why I was a classmate of everyone in '88. A good Hawaii history, a lot that I haven't explored yet, but a rich history, a lot on Waianae and on that side of the island. I know we had some land over there, um, and we ultimately sold that off, but a deep history here in Hawaii.
So your mom was part Hawaiian. Uh, in what ways did she sort of manifest being part Hawaiian, if at all?
Yeah, um, that's a great question. I'm not too sure, but just the love of this island, and the joy to celebrate it. Growing up, she and my dad were heavily involved in running in Hawaii, and so my memories are being taken to running events all over the state, to Maui, Kauai. And there would be a lot of people in our house over the weekends and running groups and just being community oriented and focused and helping others pretty much.
So your dad's side of the family, from the mainland, the mom side of your family, you have roots that go back all the way to the missionaries, and of course, much further with the native Hawaiians. Did you notice a difference in sort of family reunions to the extent that those happened? Like you'd go to your dad's family reunion, there's a certain feel. Then you go to your mom's family reunion, which of course is much more Hawaiian, and that was different. Was there any contrast that you noticed?
Yeah, great thing. There definitely was. Number one is the size. The wall side of the family, they were more spread out, so we would go and see a few of them. Obviously in Hawaii, when the Holtz, Lovejoys, Dwights, and other family lineage got together. It was a big party. I think I remember the first one. I didn't, being a young high school, not all that interested, right? Who are all these people I've never met before? Trying to understand how are they related to us. But I remember a sense of, wow, this is a big group of people, like a lot of family that I had no clue were somehow related to us.
Um, as you were growing up, how did you understand sort of being Hawaiian? Did you think about that much? Did you have a certain interpretation of what that meant for you?
Not really, Dave. It was not something that I remember distinctly being. My first introductions were, you know, um, knowing that it was there from my grandfather. He was very influential, and on the history side of it, but I didn't get into that till later on in life, and chasing some things and looking up some history. Um, just the sense of just growing up in Hawaii and being happy, and Kailua and Punahou, just that just sense of uh, of Hawaii.
Do you feel like you had more of a connection to Hawaii and maybe even some street cred? Because if you're growing up in Hawaii and you're part Hawaiian, you deserve to be there. Whereas, as you know, everybody else, the debate is ongoing.
They're transplants, so to speak. It's interesting. I When I meet people and they ask me those questions and, are you from Hawaii? Yes, I'm born and raised from Hawaii, and I'm actually Hawaiian. They're very surprised. Why I don't know. I guess the haole side of me comes out stronger than the Hawaiian side. Um, but it definitely a sense of belonging, and wanting to learn more on that side of the family for sure. Kind of do them. I don't know all the history. I don't even speak Hawaiian. I appreciate Hawaiian, but wish that I had that capability to learn that early on in life.
Let's get back to your parents. So your mom graduates 1969, and then Kelly Wall is born 1970.
Mm-hmm.
What is your understanding of that? I mean, obviously they stayed together, so
Yep.
but what is your understanding of that story?
Yeah. It's interesting. I did not know that early on, um, and found that out, sometime in high school, I think, and it was interesting, to say the least. But the story my dad tells, or my mom tells, or told of my dad, is he was a TA, a teaching assistant at University of Hawaii in computer sciences. And his best friend at the time, Charlie Bass, was also a TA at University of Hawaii, and he came rushing into my dad's class when he found out my mom's age and that he was dating a younger woman at the time, and interrupted his class and embarrassed my dad. And it was pretty funny. And they tell that story that my dad had to pause class and run out and chase after his best friend and and kind of give him a talking to. But
You mean that your dad's friend burst into a class he was teaching and said, "Hey, everybody, Mr. Wall here is dating an 18-year-old."
he came in and exploded and just said 18 or 17, and how old she was. I think, mom, as many of us did, might have had might have not told the truth in entering a bar that she shouldn't have been entering back in the day. And so it was a definitely a funny to have a conversation afterwards. But yeah, doing the math backwards, yeah, conception was pre-marriage. So
Your parents met in a bar.
they met in a bar.
Do you know the bar?
I do not. I wish I remember, but I don't remember. It's somewhere in town. I don't think it exists still
Oh,
today, you know.
certainly not. Well, excellent. Well, what was life like growing up? Just briefly tell me, like, did you have, siblings, and what was life like in the Wall family when you were a kid?
Yeah. No siblings. I'm fortunate to be an only child, and loved growing up as an only child, because it was all about Kelly. So that was a good thing. Um, you know, uh, a lot of love, David. We didn't have a lot. My parents were broke, and so um, we moved to Kailua. We were up in Pohakapu early on, going to public school. Um, like I said, my parents were into running back in the day, so a lot of memories of being dragged to running events, which start early, and many mornings living in the camper, sleeping in the camper, and different friends of my mom and dad be looking after me. Sometimes nobody be looking after me. It was a very free time, and but a lot of love, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. Um, Dad and mom moved to the current house that we're in back in, I think it was in fifth grade around that time, David. And then fortunately, the school's literally two houses from our house, and so that was a great time growing up and being able to walk to classes and be here. Mom and dad were always present. Mom was a dental hygienist for 35 years, in two different practices. And dad was in multiple jobs, multiple utility jobs. He worked for Hawaiian Telcom for a number of years. He worked for Hawaiian Electric as the CIO. And that was actually his last job was with Hawaiian Electric Industries, and retired from there. Great organization that took care of my dad. And so yeah, we were dirt poor, and somehow mom and dad made it work, and they worked two jobs, and again, I got to live out my mom's dream to go to Punahou. So
Yeah. I mean, it very easily could have gone another direction because it's not often the case, or it's not always the case, that two people meet in a bar, they have a, a baby that they perhaps were not planning for, but then they stay together and they create a happy home. But in your case,
yes,
that's what happened.
yeah, very, very fortunate. You know, struggling parents, there's always struggles, and but I felt very fortunate, both in getting the opportunity to go to Punahou and meet wonderful people like yourselves and become lifelong friends. And yeah.
Yeah. Um, you say your parents were dirt poor. Do you have memories of being young and being aware that you guys had limited resources, or was that something as you got older, you compared yourself against your peers and maybe decided that you didn't have as much?
Yeah, no, totally the case. It's a reflection analysis, David. I had no idea growing up. Like, you know, as a single child, their whole focus was on me. So I had zero reference of that. I remember my favorite thing my mom used to make. She wasn't the greatest cook. My grandmother was the cook for us. I was fortunate that my grandmother lived with us growing up. Mom's favorite thing to cook me was fried bologna sandwich. And
That
looking
that is
back,
that is like the 70s so hardcore.
and it's hilarious. In fact, we're going through a remodel downstairs. My dad recently passed last year, and it's the original kitchen, David, from '76, and there's a yellow linoleum countertop that's still there. And yeah, you want to talk about the '70s? That's how it was for
That
sure.
that that linoleum countertop was the site of many fried bologna sandwich preparations. Is that correct?
Absolutely,
Right.
absolutely.
You talked about the fact that you're out with your parents going to all these sort of adult events and not necessarily being supervised the entire time. That was very much what was taking place across the 70s. Kids were latchkey kids. They were riding their bikes off into the night. Parents had no idea where people were. There was just less supervision. There was just less supervision. Do you recall any other sort of very 70s features about growing up in Hawaii? Like when you think about your childhood and you think about kind of the highlights of playing with your friends, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely, right. I think um they used to have ads on TV at 10 p.m. like, do you know where your children are, right? And making sure that the parents realized they had kids back then. And I just remember being out with friends here in Kailua till dark, and when it got dark, then you came home, and um that was a very freeing time for sure. And I think part of my growing up is my mom was a student at dental hygienist school. And so she was the first of her class to have a child. And so um, I was raised by that class of dental hygienists. And so I got passed around from auntie to auntie. And, I have Hanai aunts that claim, some of them never had kids. They claim me as one of their kids, raising me for those years. And so yeah, being passed around from friends and people looking after while my mom and dad would run, we there was this race, David. It was the around Oahu relays, a run race that did different sections, and they ran around Kaana Point. And my parents did that multiple years. And I can remember us in our VW camper van, And I would just be staying in it and hanging out and watching, different segments, and then they drive to the next segment, and it was just like a giant adventure, really. It was awesome. I had no reference that this wasn't not normal, I guess. You know what I mean?
When you were with your friends until dark, what were you guys doing? We were riding bikes, doing graffiti. What were we doing?
Yeah, mostly just playing a lot of tag, riding bikes, to the beach, surfing in Kailua. Well, it wasn't great surf, but it's what we had, we grew up with, and so a lot of surfing in Kailua, and a lot of just riding around.
Who,
It,
who, who taught you how to surf?
my dad, yeah, he put me on a board. I think there were photos. I was just a little shit, and yeah, great memories of surfing with my dad, and some of the best memories. Driving to the North Shore, to and from. We'd leave at like 5 a.m. to get up, on the North Shore to hit early dawn patrol up there. And I can remember, in high school we would go and surf threes before school if I didn't have swim practice. We'd go in the summertime and go hit threes. So a lot of surfing, it was his passion and love, and it became part of my life.
But I mean, you were on the swim team, you were surfing at 5 a.m. before school. You're pretty much very competent in the water, very strong in the water.
I would say that is one of my skill sets, or it's especially growing up. Swimming, age group swimming, was no joke. Morning practice, afternoon practice, and for a good chunk of my life, that was it. And great memories. I wasn't an outstanding swimmer. I was probably middle of the pack, and but could hold my own. I was nowhere near, Ian Lee, our classmate, who was, we called him Flipper because he was incredible. Was part of a team that, we won two state championships. We lost two, by 1 point each, our junior and senior year, which was unfortunate, but grew up in the swimming community for sure.
How old are you when you went to Punahou?
So I entered Punahou, sixth grade. And so I had tried to enter Punahou, from the third grade, I think, or fourth grade, and attended summer school at Punahou, I think, fourth, fifth, and then they finally accepted my application to get in, and I was super excited. My mom was super excited. I think I would have attempted to get in the rest of my high school career. My mom was very determined, in that sense. So.
So then we enter the academy, that's high school at Punahou. As you went through 4 years and you got towards graduation, what would you say were your sort of top intellectual awakenings? Were there any topics or teachers or experiences where kind of a light bulb went off and it was kind of an adult intellectual moment?
Hmm. Great question. Um, I don't know. I wasn't the smartest student in our class, David. I think at the end I was in the high 300s and the low 400s in rankings of our class. I struggled. I struggled with math. I was in fundamentals with Stu Gross, and I can remember us, in that large classroom under the library, and there were 60 of us in that class, and um you know I don't know if the aha moment really was there, David, but I just had a sense of the exposure to a lot of different things. I mean, to have I forget the name of the class, but when when we got to analyze different movies and watch movies as part of the class, and have discussions about it, very different than most class structure was. I loved our curriculum in the sense that we had breaks throughout the day to socialize. with different groups of people. And the schedule was off, kind of like college schedule. I thought that was the best part of one of the best parts of Punahou. Because it gave us a lot of freedoms to be with different groups, and not just locked into one group of people throughout the day. But mostly the social aspects of being able to integrate with different groups of people is what really helped me, in throughout my life, being able to be in different scenarios and know how to act and navigate. I think that's one of the greatest things from Punahou gave me.
Sounds like you picked up some sort of social skills that served you well for the rest of your life.
I would
But
agree.
with regard to academics, you didn't get the greatest grades. Were you at peace with that, or at the time, did that trouble you?
I think it troubled me in the sense that it was hard, and that um I was a procrastinator, which, many of us were at that age. And so, writing papers last minute, I would get the proverbial talking from my parents, why did you wait so long, right? And but it was always the last minute, and then inevitably I'd have to have my mom read it and my dad read it and validate it. So did it cause strife? Yeah, a little bit, and a little bit a sense of I was in awe of a lot of our classmates, who were brilliant, and still are. But the struggle was the struggle, and I knew that it was my mom's dream, and strap it up, Kelly, let's go. I got to figure it out myself, and so whether that was, they were able to get me, extra tutors, right? And I'd spend time after class with the teachers getting help, but ultimately we made it through.
That's excellent. Let's dwell a bit longer on what you might call sort of high school anthropology. In Punahou, and it's called the mid '80s. There's definitely cliques. The cliques were sort of formed around, in some cases, maybe interests or styles, but in some cases, it's kind of like ethnic segmentation, one
Hmm.
might say. What was
Hmm.
your read of our class, or just the era of high school that we were in? And you've already talked about your ability to navigate between groups, but because you did that, what is your analysis now of the way that our high school was kind of divided into these social cliques?
Yeah, knew that they were there, knew that they were present. Didn't I don't I mean, I knew of them, but many of them I didn't belong to. There were a lot of kids in our class that I didn't get to know, David, and recognize them by their their appearance. Oh, that, I kind of remember that person was in our class, but many of them, gosh, I didn't get to know them, I mean, it was a large class. There's 400 people in our class, right? And so, glad that I knew a good chunk of them, but yeah, there were many that I did not get a chance to interact with. Some interactions weren't all that favorable, and some cliques didn't like me, and there were different phases that I went through in high school, right? I think I had a cowboy phase at one point, was wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat to class, and that rubbed some of the groups and classmates the wrong way, but I didn't care, Dave. It's just growing up and finding your own,
I mean, a guy who wears cowboy boots and a cowboy hat to Punahou in the mid '80s probably doesn't care. And so I want to know, where did that come from? Because I don't recall, like, there wasn't a lot of people kind of pushing the envelope on the fashion sense. I guess you had maybe some goth type of, but
Yeah,
where did that come
yeah.
from? And are you into fashion, or like what was that?
No, don't know, David. I think it stemmed from swimming. I think is where it came from. I attended University of Texas summer swim camp, as trying to get to in swimming, there's junior nationals, nationals, and senior nationals, and so trying to reach that different higher level of swimming talent and attend different meets and so to speak. I went to University of Texas for a summer. I think it was like 3 week summer camp or something like that, and it was just all swimming, and so I think I came home with boots and a hat, David, and I think that's where that stemmed from. But yeah, I have zero fashion sense, and so it was just hey, I liked it. It was part of what I was going through at that time.
During high school, how about your life and social life off campus? Were you like surfing with friends? Were you going to parties?
Was a heavy partier, David. Yeah, gotta say, high school was absolutely glorious. It was some of the best times of my life. From a party scene for sure. I don't know if you remember the Buffalolos, but was part of the Buffalolos, supporting all of our athletic teams and doing a little bit of drinking prior and after, and yeah, it was a fun time. We did a lot of that, especially junior and senior year. Um,
So walk me through, let's say where drinking was involved and the Buffalolas were involved. Where would you get the drinks?
yeah.
When would you drink them? And then how did that affect your performance in going Lolo for whatever team you're supporting? And just kind of what paint the picture of how that worked.
Yeah. Well, had a fake ID. There was a Punahou classmate who was, I think, 3 or 4 years older than us. I think, and he was uh, um, a friend of a friend, and we looked alike. And so I got his old fake ID and would go down to an old Chinese liquor market on off of Date Street, and they were not ID compliant at the time, and and so we would purchase alcohol. I think back in the day there were, Boone Farms wine coolers, what we started out with, or strawberry Boone's Hill strawberry wine. Then it
A mark of distinction.
Mark of distinction, right? Yeah, Bartles and James. I mean, Zima. All of these crazy things that came out during then, and then it was Bud Light and other light beers, and kind of continued on to malt liquor in college, and but yeah, it would be before or after have a few. We'd go up to I don't know the exact name, but the water pump, the station going up
Up
Tantalus,
Manoa.
Manoa, yeah, and up Tantalus, and um, so we'd hang out there, and and have a few, and then go cheer on the team or wherever it might be, and yeah, got into a couple, drank a lot of beer.
Was there a downside to your beer consumption?
Fortunately, for me, no. Um, other than getting into some trouble. I remember one time was out doing some mischievous things and came home, and uh, my parents were awakened by the cops. Um, and so I got a talking to for that. The cops came, and we had been
Why did the cops come?
we had been uh, playing baseball with mailboxes, where we would drive by mailboxes and knock them off with baseball bats, and yeah, and so we
Interfering with the mail is a federal crime.
it is a federal crime, yeah, unbeknownst to me at the time. So yeah, some mischievous things for sure.
How about Pakalolo?
No, never really got into that at all, and it was just a little bit of alcohol, no drugs whatsoever. There were a lot of drugs, especially after high school when I worked in Kailua, but yeah, never got into that, fortunately. And you know, even in high school, I drank a lot of beer and some hard liquors, but never really anything excessive, for so to speak. And then being a bartender afterwards, during college and after, really cured me of liquor. I don't drink any liquor any longer. So as a bartender, you start off the night and it's all joyful and great, and you have patrons that come and see you, and then you kind of they turn, right? And they get drunker and drunker, and you see different sides of people, and it just kind of soured me on the whole process.
Have I neglected to ask you anything about something that was important that should be discussed?
I guess, as many of our classmates know, Yoni LeGrand and I have found each other, and I guess that's the best part you know, um, of our history together. But
You guys are a class of '88 celebrity couple.
appreciate that. I'm not sure, but we sure enjoy each other, and feel like we're back in high school many times, and just it's nice when you find someone you want to spend your time with, engaging, and it's like that every day. And so very, very fortunate and blessed, and would thank for all of the fellow support of that. So
Did you know Yoni when you were in high school?
I did. Yeah, idolized her because she was the supermodel, right? She was the model in our class, and she would be going to Japan for modeling things, and way out of my class range, David. I mean, you never thought that, I could ever date a girl like Yoni. Going through high school, I was just like, I didn't date very much in high school either, and so. Although I wanted to, but unfortunately didn't. There were a lot of our classmates who had girlfriends throughout or multiple girlfriends, but not for me through the time at Punahou. Um, but yeah, just happy, just really, really happy.
I should probably put in a plug that I've also done an interview with Yoni LeGrand in this Punahou '88 series that everybody should watch.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I'll ask you one more question, Kelly, and then I'll let you go. I know it's a Wednesday morning in Hawaii, and you're a busy guy. But when you are outside of Hawaii, maybe you're on the mainland, and you meet someone and you tell them that you grew up in Hawaii, we all have experienced the reaction that people often have, which is, "Wow, what was that like?" So when you get that reaction, and also given the fact that your roots go really deep in Hawaii, what do you say?
Um, I say very fortunate, David. I feel blessed that I was born and raised here in Hawaii, and got to grow up here, and very fortunate of the melting pot of cultures, of people, of values, of just how Hawaii is. I know it's a lot different than it was when we grew up, but just the sense um, of belonging to this island, to give back. I walk Kailua Beach almost every week, sometimes multiple days, and just blessed that I get to do that. I went to Italy after graduation with my parents, and I had a Punahou high school swim sweater on in Florence, Italy, and I got stopped by this woman who had a leather booth, and she was from Hawaii, and we stopped and talked, and she knew Punahou, and it really is a global perspective that it reaches, and people from Hawaii, they're always from Hawaii.
All right, man. Well, Kelly Wall, it's been great talking to you. And
David,
we'll say goodbye, but I look forward to seeing you in person.
thanks so much. Appreciate it. Love to all our classmates.